Joining us now is Mohammed Barakat. He's been with me before. He's getting to be a veteran here on the John Frederick Show. And Mohammed's big time. He's a mover and a shaker. And he's the managing director of the United States Qatar Business Council, which is kind of cool because they're in town this week, the powers to be, and trying to spur investment in the U.S. and out for that, because investment means good things like jobs and good paying jobs. So I'm always for investment in the U.S. Mohammed, good to have you with us, man.
Good morning, John, and thanks for having me again on your show.
It's always great to have you. Now, when you get together for these business councils, I love when your organization tries to facilitate foreign country investment into the United States, because that's good for our economy. That's great jobs for us and economic activity for us. Tell me about some of what is going on right now with your organization, the U.S. Qatar Business Council.
Yes, definitely. As you said, John, it's one of our major mandates to help facilitate the trade and investments between the United States and in our case, the state of Qatar. We work closely with entities in the United States on the federal government level, on the state level as well, and sometimes on the city level, to increase awareness on the potential investment opportunities in the United States on different markets, from real estate to infrastructure projects to manufacturing on the line as well. The matters that we do now that you mentioned Select USA is we work on bringing more delegations. We have a delegation from the state of Qatar in the United States to attend the Select USA Summit, look and evaluate investment opportunities. It's very high level, actually, delegation led by a Minister of Economy and Commerce of the state of Qatar, and a big business delegation with him representing the state and the private sector. Evaluating a lot of these business opportunities in different states represented at the summit, many of the opportunities that will contribute to creating more jobs. The more investments that we have in here in the United States, the more we see opportunities created directly or indirectly. And as you know, we have mentioned this before, the relationship between the state of Qatar and the United States have supported more around 1 million American jobs through business with Qatar. So we want to see more of that. We want to see more of the investment opportunities, learn more about opportunities outside maybe major cities, and carry on evaluating and investing in the United States. It's a stable market. We see great value in that, and that's what we see Qataris and Americans really looking forward to engage in the next few days.
Mohammed Barakat, let me ask you this. You're in the Gulf, and the state of Qatar has really the opportunity to invest anywhere in the world, whether it be in the European Union, in the UK, in Egypt, Canada. Why such an interest in investing in U.S. properties and businesses?
Well, let me say this, John. I mean, the state of Qatar is investing in many other countries. They are investing in Europe. They are investing in Asia and in many other countries of the world. However, when it comes to the United States, Qatar and the United States have always enjoyed a very great and wonderful relationship when it comes to, one, the political relationship, but other than that, it's on the business and the investment. U.S. is a big market. It has its own diversity, even though it's under one flag and under one umbrella in the United States. So that actually facilitate more available options for investors. Different markets, different cities offer different opportunities. And as you know, investors and business leaders always look for to diversify their portfolios.
Right.
On the other hand, as well, it's a very stable market. On the political risk side, the United States is a very stable market. It's a country that known to be and will be always stable when it comes to that on the political side. So your investment is secured. So the risk analysis when it comes to that side is always minor. On the other hand, there's several incentives as well offered in the market, and we're hoping to see more of these incentives specifically coming from on the state level, on the city level, and in the outside of the major and mega cities in the United States, where we can actually create more jobs. And we see this as an opportunity to enhance and increase this relationship between the two countries.
We're chatting with Mohammed Barakat. He's the managing director of the U.S. Qatar Business Council, and the Qatar Minister of Economy and Commerce, Sheikh Ahmed bin Jassim bin Mohammed Al Thani, is visiting Washington, D.C. this week, meeting with U.S. officials and business leaders discussing bilateral economic ties. I had the opportunity to interview the Minister of Economy and Commerce. I think it was about 2 or 3 months ago. It was in April, I believe, when I was in Miami. I had an opportunity to interview him, and very interesting guy. But let me ask you, if I can, a couple of questions, Mohammed, so we can all better understand this because of the amount of jobs that the state of Qatar has created in the U.S., which is about 1 million. Give us the model. Having done this now for a little bit of time, what are some of the best investments that you've made and that have made the most progress?
Well, in general, most of the current investments that took place in the United States were mainly focused on the real estate and market and development market. Qatar has invested in D.C. City Center, as you might know, in Washington, D.C., which helped actually bringing that area to a very high standards, very well-known kind of flagship state in Washington, D.C., helped creating and generating thousands of jobs in that area. So that was a very successful investment in a major city, the capital, the nation capital. A lot of investments in New York as well. Qatar is investing in Western Manhattan projects, almost $8.4 billion in that one, which will help generate more jobs. A lot of these projects, even outside the major cities, we see generation of jobs, real estate investment. However, as you might know, John, Qatar has committed to invest $10 billion in infrastructure projects in the next few years. These will be critical infrastructure projects to the United States, but it will help in a way assist rebuilding our infrastructure here in the U.S. and as well generate more jobs. Return in many of these cases, when Qatar Investment Authority started evaluating the market and investing in a way where in a good generated good numbers, looking at the numbers on these real estate investment. There is also consideration for more investment potentially in the high-tech industry and in the United States, which will as well facilitate more jobs.
We're with Mohammed Barakat. He is the managing director of the U.S. Qatar Business Council, and he's here with the Qatar Minister of Economy and Commerce, Sheikh Ahmed bin Jassim bin Mohammed Al Thani. See, now that I go on Al Jazeera every day, I can say all these names accurately. I've got this down, man. I'm the guy. Let's get to the geopolitical scene. I found it fascinating when you said that when looking for investments, and you're with the Qatar U.S. Business Council, that you seek out various domains, cities, and states that offer incentives. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, definitely, John. So, when the Qatari investment entities, and both on the government side and the private side, look and evaluate opportunities, when it comes to the incentives, you see a lot of states offering specific economic zones in a way that provide tax breaks, 10 years or 15 years tax breaks, that will encourage investors, and also looking at the portfolios that is offered to actually invest in these states offering that and these cities. As well, looking into the general tax on the federal level criteria. What is the breaks offered? How is a foreign investor participation in an investment in the United States is affected? Is it taxable? What's the limits on the taxation? What's their ability to buy shares in a way? The percentage, if it's a sovereign wealth fund, there's limitation on that in our law. A lot of what we see is in many cities and states that we go to in the United States, they're creating these wonderful plans, specifically with mega development projects that will generate jobs, American jobs, to encourage foreign investors to come. When it comes to Qatar, on the private investment side, private individuals, that matters a lot. When you have a tax break, even if it's few minor numbers in the percentage, out of $100 or $50 million, it will matter for them in 10 years investment.
Well, look, this is why a lot of my friends that are Republicans or on the right hate these incentives that cities and states offer, whether they're tax incentives or other. I'm in favor of it because, look, you have to compete. If you're Washington, D.C., and you're trying to get infrastructure business or you're trying to get companies to come in, other cities are doing it. You have to be able to do it. You have to be able to compete as a public entity, and I appreciate you taking advantage of that. I've only got a minute remaining, but I want to talk about, you talked about $10 billion of infrastructure projects. Just give an example of one that you have in mind so we can understand it.
Well, right now, John, there is not a single project that has been identified on the infrastructure in a way. However, I can tell you that they're looking into many projects such as potentially airports, railway systems. On the utility side, a lot of consideration on that, looking into utilities, utility companies that will help on that side. More on the major and bigger infrastructure when it comes to also our road and transportation projects in the United States. So these are some of the opportunities that's been evaluated. Nothing has been decided yet. There is hopefully soon we will hear good news on some of these selected projects or evaluated projects. But these are kind of the projects that the Qataris are looking to evaluate for the infrastructure investment.
All right. It's so fascinating, Mohammed, having you on. Let's get together soon. I really enjoy our dialogue, so it really gives me and my audience a good understanding of some of the things that are happening with our two countries' relationship as it relates to business and investment in jobs. And I am the job show in America. You can find me a way to get jobs. I'm going to do all I can to help it. Mohammed, thanks for being with us. We really appreciate you. Mohammed Barakat, Managing Director of the U.S. Qatar Business Council, and he has been chatting with us as the week the state of Qatar has government officials in, mainly their Minister of Economic and Finance, trying to figure out how to make more investments in the U.S. and get more jobs, and I'm for that. And again, happy Father's Day. Let's get together soon.